A time comes in the life of every race when people are driven by echoes of the past to chart a course for an exalted future. Africa is at this threshold, as major actors in the Africa arena plot a renaissance towards common destiny. Let's pedal across the streams of yesterday, from the backstreets of Africa to the defining roles of policymakers, the political realities of the African nation, balance of power, and a strive to sustain national interest and identity. Join us on Network Africa on Channels Television. Network Africa, a rallying point for the emergence of a new Africa.
At a point when African leaders had just returned from signing the dotted lines with the hope of charting the roadmap for Africa's economic future and possibly to launch Africa back into the mainstream of global economy, with the famous agenda of boosting intra-African trade, the sub-region unfortunately finds itself having to deal with the political crisis in Mali with stiff economic sanctions contrary to the plan of advancing trade interest amongst African nations in sub-Saharan Africa. Perhaps one wonder why African leaders keep missing it. In this campaign for a global renaissance, welcome to Network Africa. I'm Benga Ashiru. As the crisis in Mali spurs on with African Union and ECOWAS placing sanctions on Mali, it's a bit difficult to comprehend why the Tuareg rebels are being left to have a field day advancing the north of Mali. Quite a sad commentary and a reminder of days of military takeover in Africa, but definitely a call on African leaders to take charge.
These Malians are from the north of the country, now in rebel control. About 2,000 of the displaced northerners at this meeting are calling for weapons to return home and fight. They are unhappy with the defense put up by the Malian army after the country's recent coup. Mali can be divided, whatever the situation. I think that with everything that was said tonight here, we will organize ourselves by whatever means and go and defend our region. Mali is one and whole, undivided really. Added to that is the presence of Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. If the North Malians do take up arms, they will face a cocktail of rebels. The most prominent, the MNLA, is fighting for a separate homeland. There are also local Islamists trying to impose Sharia law throughout Mali. While the intention of Mali's coup leader was to give the army more power to combat the nascent Tuareg revolt, it has instead unleashed a renewed rebel onslaught.
As Nigeria's former president Olusegun Obasanjo finally resigns as chairman board of trustees of the ruling People's Democratic Party in Nigeria for a full commitment to the task of meeting up with the increasing international demands, especially within the African sub-region, was there more to his purported unceremonious resignation? Perhaps a time to review his account of stewardship as the head of AU and ECOWAS joint mission in Dakar. Also find out his reaction to the present crisis in Mali. With the challenges of deepening democratic institutions in Africa becoming a recurring track to cover up, how does former President Obasanjo view this, considering the widespread allegation that he moved for the third term at the twilight of his administration as President of Nigeria? This no doubt presents an extraordinary engaging interview for a man who holds a very strong view on Nigerian Africa. Do join in this chat.
Network Africa.
You're welcome in this edition of Network Africa, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. You are most welcome too.
Now, we'll look at the present challenge confronting Africa. Recently, the African Union had a rude shock with the coup in Mali, and now they're placing sanctions. But you'll also recall that presently they have the issue of the Tuareg rebels to deal with. Would you say the African Union and the ECOWAS are taking the right step in the right direction by clamping down on the military forces in Mali?
Of course, the constitution of the constitutive act of the AU is very specific. AU will not accept any government or member of government to sit with it, which has not come out of democratic process.
Let's weigh the impact of the placing of sanctions on the military in Mali. Isn't this a distraction on the political process in Mali? Because the military have said that they are going to give chances to conducting election in Mali. But now the Tuareg forces, rebels, are having a free field day advancing the north of Mali, and now Timbuktu is at stake. So isn't this a distraction now, considering that the biggest stake now is the invasion of Mali by the Tuareg rebels and not the military force?
What happened? The Tuaregs are not even asking for self-determination or secession. They are asking for more stake in the economic, political, and social life of their own country. And I believe that that is a legitimate thing to ask for. And in fact, the military came up on the pretext that the government of Mali gave them a task to perform, this task of confronting and dealing with the Tuaregs rebellion in the north. And the government did not give them enough tools to perform the task. Maybe that too is legitimate. But if that is legitimate, is the way they have gone about it the right way to go about it? Now, even that, I heard that they just wanted to make a presentation. Now, but in the military, once your complaint is not individual, if 2 or 3 are jointly complaining, it becomes a mutiny, and it has to be dealt with as such. Maybe they didn't intend to take over power. So if genuinely they didn't intend to take over power, then what is their business in conducting election? Their business is to say, well, look, now democracy, and they have a system. Even if the president is not there, they have the president of the parliament who automatically takes over. Then let that happen, and let that one conduct election, and the soldiers should go to their barracks.
Let's just quickly review your recent role as the joint head of the AU and the ECOWAS mission in Dakar. Now, that throws up the challenges of deepening democratic institutions in Africa. So what's your scorecard on the election process now that saw an opposition winning against the former incumbent that was headed for third term?
Well, I was sent on 2 missions. The first mission is what I call the mission of peace, because there was some form of acrimony, some form of argument, some form of disagreement between the government and opposition as to whether the incumbent then, President Wa, should contest or should not contest. The opposition were threatening to boycott, and violence had broken out in parts. That was the stage at which I was sent on a joint mission of AU and ECOWAS. That's the mission of peace. Then the other aspect of my mission is the observer mission. The mission of peace, of course, is again part of what our leaders, both at the sub-regional level and at the continental or regional level, normally take on. How can they prevent a conflict? How can they be proactive? How can they act before things break out into the open in violence and in destruction of life and property. Now, that was the stage I got in. And as soon as I got in, the opposition, I met everybody. And the opposition, the first feeling is that, oh, well, in our struggle, we were not ignored, we were not disregarded, we were not left alone, we were not left high and dry by these organizations, the sub-regional organization, ECOWAS, and the AU. So that had a salutary effect.
But in all honesty, do you think former President Wade has the right to contest, to go for third term?
Well, he did something that was smart. He went to the Constitutional Court. And it doesn't matter what you may feel, you believe in rule of law, and the Constitutional Court says this, whether it's right or wrong, you have to accept it. As I always say, justice does not end in this world. It may begin here, but justice will end out there in the world to come.
How would you relate that with the fact that you toyed with the idea of third term?
Well, there I want to correct you. And I want to correct you firmly. I never toyed with the idea of a third term.
Until now, you were yet to deny.
I have denied it all along. I have denied it all along. But those who believe that their political fortune will be better served are the one. Look, there was the role of the National Assembly to amend the Constitution. Third term was one out of over 100 clauses that they wanted, that they included in that amendment. Over 100. And they initiated it. It was not an executive bill. So you are absolutely wrong. If I want a third term, that bill will have come from me. My liaison officer, Florence Itagiwa, told the whole world that, look, there was no day I ever call her and say, go and work for third term. Even Atiku, who said, oh, some people told him that there was third term agenda. He hasn't mentioned the name of those who told him. Now, the people who are close to me, none of them will ever tell you that I told them, go and work for third term. Even Mantu, who was the leader of the Senate, and who, of course, is the one who has to present a bill emanating from anywhere, but this one emanating from the Senate itself. He was the chairman of the committee. He will never tell you. He has never said that I called him to say I want a third term. So all of you talking of third term are very unfair. And you are ill-informed, you are mischievous, and you are, I don't know what else I can call you. And I've also said that, look, I'm not a fool. If I want a third term, I know how to go about it. And there's nothing that I have wanted that God has never given me. If I had wanted a third term, I would have gone about it the way I should go about it, and I will have got it.
It's good that posterity begins to set the record straight.
Yes.
But many got up to a very unceremonious report about your resignation as the chairman PDP Board of Trustees.
What is ceremonious? What is unceremonious? What will be ceremonious? That I will call a parade and say, I am now resigning? What is ceremonious? Look, I said in my statement that, look, I believe in my original, or in my profession as a military, we talk of 2 down. That is, if you are a divisional commander, you will look not only at your division, you will look at the leadership of the brigade and the leadership of the battalion. That's 2 down. I said, in my own exercise, God has given me the opportunity to bring about my successor. First down. And my successor's successor. 2 down. I've completed my 2 down. And if you want to go beyond that, I have also participated in 1 national convention and 2nd national convention. 2 down. So what more do you want me to do? And I have warned everybody at the state level of my party, at the zonal level of my party, at the national level, even at the BOT itself, as far back as a year ago, that I will be resigning. I will have done it immediately after the election. I was persuaded, please. And then, okay, I will wait until the national convention. So, what ceremony do you want?
This might be your last grip on power.
The only one that has grip on power is God. Now, look, how do you talk this way? I wonder, are you a believer at all? And those people who are listening to you, are they believers?
Some reports came from your source that you're not happy with the way...
No, I don't mince words. Okay. I said that zoning was the basis of PDP unity. Zoning is what has held you PDP together. And I said, and I wrote that, I make it publicly in my, as chairman of BOT, that when a particular office was zoned to a particular place, if you allow that to be disturbed, you have undermined zoning and rotation, and that is dangerous for the party. And I still believe that is dangerous for the party. So when you remove that and you try to play game with it, it is not in the best interest of the party. It's not in the best interest of the nation.
This was part of the reason you moved the idea of NEPAD.
Yes.
And now many say it as a sidekick to the African Union in terms of the efficiency so far, which has turned out a very low scorecard.
Well, it depends who is doing the scoring. And it depends on what card is doing the scoring. I was at the 10th anniversary of NEPAD only last week in Addis Ababa. And what we say, and I say this, there too, is that yes, we haven't made as much progress as we should have made. But we must also accept and admit that NEPAD has contributed to the progress we have made, no matter how small. And the question I always ask when they say this, well, what of what use is NEPAD or this? I say, look, if we have made as little progress as we have made with NEPAD, I wonder how poor our progress will otherwise have been without NEPAD. So that's the way to look at it. So
it would have been worse.
It would have been worse.
Yeah, but one is just wondered why things have not worked well, and the enormous interest and influence of West in the affairs of most African countries.
That's right. If you are, what should be permanent in your own life as a country is the interest of your country. When I became elected president, I wanted, by virtue of the interest of my country, I wanted debt relief at all costs. And I went for it. I left no stone unturned because I know that if I can save Nigeria from having that albatross of $36 billion, where we are paying about $3.5 billion every year to service debt, just to pay interest and not to pay capital, then it will be something. I went for it, and I got it. My first year, I will go round, my first time, I go down to them, and they will say, oh, yes, you have a case. Now, your case is good. After that, Chirac said that to me. Tony Blair said that to me. Clinton said it to me. Bush Jr. said it to me when he came. I went to Japan. They said the same thing to me. And the president of World Bank then, Wolfenson, said, look, we will help you. When I didn't get help, I sat down, I did my analysis. I found that the political leaders at the highest level meant well, but at the lower level of ministers and director generals, now I need the follow-up. So I called the president of World Bank. I said, look, can I have your girl? And that is how Ngozi came in. Ngozi came in to do the footwork after I have done the work at the political level, high level, to do the footwork and report to me. I remember I was with Christopher Colladi as a high commissioner in London one day, and we were in the car together. For 1 hour, I was talking to Chirac. Ngozi was with his Minister of Finance, and Ngozi was telling me what was going on. I was putting pressure on Chirac until I get yes from Chirac. And that yes was communicated to his minister. Action.
Yeah, this might also be a reminder of some of the statements you made at the twilight of your administration. When you were interviewed about why the power crisis, the power cuts, and the electric power supply is still rife in Nigeria. And you said now, from the benefit of hindsight, that is one regret that you have.
Yeah.
Could you shed more light on this? And
no, I said, well, I didn't say regret. I said, with the benefit of hindsight, this is one thing, if we had money, that I would have done something about earlier. And the people we expected to do something about it, the private sector failed to do.
The word cabal in all this scenario has been overflowed, and that might be offensive now. But can we say some few powerful merchants truncated some of these plans?
No. Well, not in my time. How can you say I come up with a policy, the policy was going well and all that, with the cabal?
Yeah, just connecting with the voices on the streets.
Yeah.
People believe that the idea of having an effective power supply in Nigeria would jeopardize the interest of people who supply generating sets and some other people who have interest.
Now, if government is doing what it should be doing, that's what I call buka talk. That's what I call buka talk. When you eat pepper soup, then how does the seller of generator stop government from doing what is right in terms of power production, power transmission, and power distribution? Tell me, who is the powerful cabal in generator importation and distribution that does that?
Well, President Obasanjo, it's been a wonderful moment, though it's been a bit of a hard talk because of your strong views about Nigeria and Africa. Thank you very much for making it on the show.
Thank you
very much.
A time comes in the life of every race when people are driven by echoes of the past to chart a course for an exalted future. Africa is a bliss threshold, as major actors in the Africa arena plot a renaissance towards common destiny. Let's pedal across the streams of yesterday, from the backstreets of Africa to the defining roles of policymakers, the political realities of the African nation, balance of power, and a strive to sustain national interest and identity. Join us on Network Africa on Channels Television. Network Africa, the rallying point for the emergence of a new